What's going on? My name is Nick McHenry. Hope that you had a fantastic weekend. Welcome to another episode of Retail Coffee Break. This week I sat down with Andras Casanova. It's the week that New York retail is able to finally open up. So most of the major department stores in the city are opening their doors for the first time in months. Andras has worked across the board at most of the major department stores in the city, so I thought he would have a great perspective on what the pandemic has been like while the streets of Manhattan have been closed and he hasn't been able to set foot in the stores that he sells in. And he didn't disappoint. He had a great perspective on remaining optimistic when times are tough, continuing to look forward and stay engaged with his customers, and so much more. I hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. As always, hit the subscribe button below to be a part of this community we're building here. I'm gonna put out conversations and other fashion business videos every single week. So hit the subscribe button so you do not miss out on a single one. Now, pour your cup of coffee. Let's get into it. So what's been going on, man? What have you been up to with everything happening? This little thing called Corona.
I know, man. I think it's like just trying to keep busy, trying to keep sane. I think it's kind of, I don't know if like everybody's kind of on the same page, but it's almost like people that have something that maybe they used to be into, or things that kind of like spark their interest. People are kind of having the time to like do those things, or maybe just hopefully, so that you don't just go crazy. Like, you don't want to just be watching TV all day or like, like on social media, like nonstop. So for me, I've just been, like drawing, trying to get back into like certain things that I just have always done. But, with New York getting home like super late, you never get to do them.
Right. What else besides drawing have you been doing? I'm curious to hear like what else your interests are that you've been digging into.
I mean, I would totally be lying if I, didn't say that I was on social media like crazy and, like doing, I guess, kind of research or whatever, like I'm super into menswear, because I work in retail. I'm super into just kind of I don't know if it would typically be called like fashion, but just, like the scene of kind of creativity in terms of clothing and kind of what's happening, because as soon as this thing is over, hopefully a lot of companies will be trying to kind of catch up somehow,
Who's your favorite menswear designer and or social media personality?
Wow.
Or just shoot one that you're into right now. It doesn't need to be, I know it's always like a loaded question, your favorite, but something that you're into lately.
Well, I mean, honestly, what's been really cool is that there's been a few companies, it seems like, because of what's going on, they're having to kind of like reinvent themselves somehow. And that seems pretty cool. Like there is a menswear, I wouldn't call it designer, but it's like a sartorial company, Rubinacci, House of Rubinacci. Which is like they're in Naples and Milan. And their creative director pretty much does like post videos on Instagram, kind of explaining in detail sort of a product's history, showing people how to put things together. There's a company called The Armory. I don't know if you're familiar. They're actually based in,
of course, Soho.
They're in New York. What's up?
They're in Soho. They have a store in Soho, right?
Yeah, somewhere down there, like Tribeca or something.
Tribeca.
Originally out of Hong Kong, but then they're doing videos right now and kind of like, just talking about merchandise and kind of, I think they have this thing called like what I'm wearing and why, and they kind of like break it down and, it's just like, you got to make things entertaining. You got to make things like captivating for an audience, rather than just like picture, so yeah.
I agree, man. I've been loving it because I've always thought like, I mean, our industry, like especially fashion, right? Men's or women's wear has always been, in my opinion, too transactional. It's always been like, look at my new stuff that I want you to buy, or look at like this new collection or whatever. It's like me focused, right? So I've loved that. And it's like everybody's shifted to exactly what you're saying, like value added content. How do you wear this kind of stuff? What's the story behind it? I've been seeing that same thing. I've watched a couple of the Armory videos. I haven't seen any of Luca's stuff, but it looks, I mean, it's awesome to see these people or brands sort of pivoting to completely away almost just from like what we're doing. And I mean, it's always around what they're doing, but at a deeper level than I think it's ever been. So that's been cool, I thought.
Right, right. I mean, I think it's, I think everybody kind of agrees, like the higher the price point, kind of like the more you should get to an
Mm-hmm.
extent, not necessarily just material wise, but kind of, typically when you go into a store, like in my opinion, kind of the environment and the experience is part of almost like the price tag, because you kind of expect more. You expect a certain amount of treatment and kind of a level of education if you're not,
Right.
kind of educated on the product, and those people will take the time to do that. So, like for that kind of brand or for that price point, for them to, to go out and have and explain this kind of stuff, it feels like they're doing their part. If you're going to pay that kind of price, it's nice.
Right. Do you feel like with all this or with, the content coming out that you've been seeing on social media, it's going to shift the way that you act on the sales floor when people come, when you get back out there, or?
Um, I most likely will, whether I realize it or not.
Right.
Like for me, whenever I have a conversation with people regarding retail or kind of just work, it always comes to mind that every time that I step into a store, every time that I have a transaction or I'm the consumer, I always take away things of my interaction. Either
Mhm.
things that the person that was helping me did well, or things that kind of bothered me that they did. And those will always be kind of in the back of my mind. So it's like, do not do that,
Right.
because you realize now like how uncomfortable or how much you really disliked it, or you're like, wow, I'm never going back in that store again. Like
Right.
how such little things can have an impact, and you always got to remember that.
I think that's a great way of saying it though, because I feel like a lot of times we forget this. Like when we're on the other end, when we're like either the seller, if you're a buyer, you're like, oh, I hate it when people do this thing, but then you go out and do that exact same thing just because you've been trained
Right.
to. Like I've
Yeah.
fallen into that trap for sure. It's like I hate receiving when people do this, and I'll find myself doing it like a month later. I'm like, shit, I hated this when I was on the other end.
Yeah, yeah. But funny enough, I think it's kind of it works both ways, because I mean, like in retail, I'm for one end, I'm a consumer, but also, an employee. But I feel like also as a consumer, you do have some sort of things that you should adhere to as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as a consumer, we've become very kind of spoiled, with the amount of things that we just have at our disposal. We're able to shop online at ease. I think we've kind of lost a little bit of appreciation for the salesperson, because like sometimes you lose sight of that, like you don't know what this person is going through when they're kind of standing there. They're really trying to do their best, or at least they should be. But and just the environment has changed so much. Like people come in, they don't even pay attention to the
Right.
salesperson. They don't even give them the credit of maybe being like an expert in their craft or
Right.
whatever it is. And,
Right.
they're on their phone and kind of so it's like, so many things have changed, so it's really hard to kind of navigate the whole environment right now.
Yeah, listen, I for sure hope that change happens on the consumer side, because I've seen that too on a retail floor where they're just like there and you're not beneath them. It's not the right word as a customer, but some people do write it off. It's just like, okay, you're here to help me find whatever I need or whatnot, as
Right.
opposed to like it being really a two-way relationship that's gonna, I mean, hopefully carry on past the sale, ideally, right? Um,
Right. Right. Right.
I, I,
Yeah. I
and I
mean,
think, and I think for sales
right.
associates too. I mean, do you think it's going to be a differentiator for the sales associates when they get back into the environment that can differentiate themselves from that, like the people who are building relationships versus the people who are maybe are transactional and their characteristics or their mannerisms?
I mean, it's, like I think things have been changing so drastically, in the last, geez, 5, 10 years, definitely, and I think it's just ever evolving, like I think being a salesperson now, to be kind of significant, you have to bring something to the table that is not the same as shopping online. You really have to
Right.
give more than just, here's your product,
Right.
give me your money, or, like it really has to be something where you bring that personal aspect out of it. Because I mean, otherwise, I've always thought, and I even speak to customers about this kind of thing, where customers that'll be in the store, and they usually agree. It's like shopping online is very convenient,
Mhm.
very easy,
Mhm.
like, and sometimes it's way more comfortable. But I don't I, at least myself, don't necessarily think that it's more enjoyable. I really don't have fun shopping online.
Right.
Although
Right.
I do it a lot. I don't have, it's not really like the time of my life. But when I go into a store and I get great service, that like is really enjoyable for me. Like, and I'll go back. I'll want to go back. I'll make my effort to like go out of the way to go back. Like I think that's really what, has to be kind of the standard if we're going to
Man,
compete.
I think you're so right. It's like how many times I'm going through my head thinking back to all the times that, because I shop online too and I shop in store, like how many times I've left an online purchase and just thought to myself, that was an amazing experience. Man, I loved that. It's usually a product focus. Like, wow, I can't believe I got this at such a great deal. Or like, I
Right.
can't believe how fast it came or how great the
Right.
product
Right.
was or whatnot. But I've left countless times, like working with people like you at the stores, leaving me like, whoa. I loved that. We were there for an hour. We talked about
Right.
football. I got my stuff I wanted. I found a new brand I'd never heard of. I've left
Right.
so many times with that feeling. I've never had that online ever.
Right. Right. And I
I don't
mean,
think
I
you
think it's
can.
just,
How can you really?
I mean, I hope they don't try and figure that out because, I don't know. I mean, I know that's kind of like, that's probably the intention, like a lot of
Right.
companies are probably focusing on online and, like, I don't know, virtual reality and how to make things almost as competitive as being
Right.
one-on-one with a person. But it's, I mean, to me, even if there's like 3 stores left in New York, I mean, I'll still want to go. I have like maybe like on one hand, I can count the stores that like I'll go to, but those stores I really enjoy going to, and I go and I know the people by first
Mm-hmm.
name, and they know
Mm-hmm.
me, and we sit and then you shop, but it's not just the shopping that's
Right.
part of it. It's just
Right.
really like having that interaction, just a human interaction that you may not
Right.
even have with your own friends because they're so busy,
Right.
on social media or doing
Yeah.
tech-based things. I don't
You
know.
want to pop in even if you're not buying anything. You want to just like go
Yes.
hang out and just like go talk to somebody that you know at the store and like you ask if they're in and just like shoot the shit or whatever and then
Yes.
leave and be totally content. You didn't get whatever you wanted to get, but you just went because you wanted to go.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. And
absolutely.
funny enough, it's like, um, if they as a and this is important as well, if they as a salesperson are not so kind of needy of trying to sell you something every single time you go in as well,
Mm-hmm.
then there's just this level of comfort within the situation where you can go into the store without being pressed to buy something,
Right.
and they know that they can trust you to come into the store, shoot the shit,
Right.
leave,
Right.
and then come back when you do need something, or call them, in a week and
Right.
be like, hey, you know what, that sweater that I was looking at,
Right.
like, can I buy that like right now and just ship
Yeah.
it to me? Like I
Yeah.
wasn't ready then, and you totally didn't pressure me.
Yeah.
Like there has to be that kind of return to ease on both parts where the salespeople are not desperate and
Right.
they don't show any desperation,
Right.
and they're just like, look around. If you don't buy anything, fine. But you know
Yeah.
what? Like it was great talking, and we're here. So
Yeah, I mean, even now it's probably more substantial, everything you just said, right? Because it's if someone leaves their house, they're almost like risk. I mean, they're basically acknowledging that they're putting their health. I mean, it's like they're putting their health at risk, right? And like
right,
if they're gonna go out and you're gonna get a pushy salesperson, I mean, that would just be the worst experience ever. I mean, you and as a salesperson, like you have no idea what's going on in their lives. You don't know like what financial situation they're in or what happened or what's going on with their health or their family's health. So probably
right.
even more
Of
important what you're
course,
saying.
of course.
But I
Yeah,
totally
it's
agree.
like I don't know. It's just like I think that's kind of what is missing a lot, and I don't know where that where that started, where we go from here, but it's kind of the ease that it used to be the situation of going somewhere and getting great service because the person is kind of enjoying their job and they're enjoying the interaction with you and you're enjoying kind of the possibility of buying something, but it's never
Mhm.
like I'm definitely buying something because I just walked in.
Right.
And like you as a salesperson, you can assume that they are, but you have to do your best to kind of welcome them in. um I don't know, but like I said, again, it's also uh geez, how would I say, I mean, not even to be kind of cruel, but like there used to be a time where it's like window shopping was kind of literally
Right.
like you're walking past the store, you're looking into
Right.
the window and kind of like
Right.
admiring. But you also get a lot of people that maybe, I don't know, maybe because of such a dependency on kind of tech and the lack of like personal relationships. They go into stores because they really don't have maybe other things to do, so
Right.
there's kind of this loss of like the connection between the salespeople and the customers, I think, at this time. That might be a crazy idea, but
No, but I think you're right. I think it's just kind of been trending that way for a long time, right? I mean, I can't speak for you, but like how many of your friends are more comfortable texting people than calling them on the phone,
right.
or just like having some kind of digital relationship that isn't what we're doing or over the phone, but just like in this digital medium of text or DM or whatnot. I have some
Right.
more friends that I never talk to on the phone, but I only DM them on Instagram. That's all I do with them.
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, it's like just I mean, this could be. I mean, I hate to say this could be a blessing in disguise for some people. I mean, obviously, this is a terrible thing that's happening, but it could be maybe a return for people to understand or to have like a realization of how special like connectedness and like
Right.
face to face kind of
Right.
personal relationships are. It's like right now we can text anybody we want. We can still
Right.
have FaceTime, but people are craving going to a bar and sitting in front of someone,
Yeah.
like
True.
sitting next to somebody, standing next to somebody,
Yeah. You don't know what
you know?
you had until you lose it, literally overnight.
Right,
And I
right,
wouldn't shy away. I mean, listen, I talk to people all the time that say the same thing as you, and I wouldn't shy away from the silver lining part of this. I think it sounds bad to say like it's a blessing in disguise because it is a terrible thing that we're going through. But I think we
right,
need to acknowledge and embrace the good things about it. Like, look at all the positive that could come out of this, that we could
right,
emerge next year or in 2 months with after just 1 month or 2 months of this happening. There's so much. I think all the things you're saying are totally true that we can actually embrace and change something for the positive in a world that was not forced to or whatnot.
right. I mean, it's kind of in relating to something like retail, it had to get to the point where people acknowledge, terrible things that are happening with the waste and, like
Mm-hmm.
clothing just being thrown
Mm-hmm.
out for people hopefully to go in the right direction where they're like, okay, there is a silver lining. Now we're seeing damage done and we can
Right.
possibly correct that, but it's sometimes being human, we have to see the sort of the bad response to be like, okay, you know what, now we see the things
Right.
that we took for granted,
Right.
so yeah.
All right. Let's take a slight turn and let's talk about you. How did you get into the business? What's your story? Like, did you always want to work in retail? Did it just kind of accidentally happen?
I don't know if anybody ever always wants to work in retail, but
That's true.
no, no, like it was just I'm originally from California, and that was like a long, long, long time ago. It's like over 15 years ago. Bay Area, moved to New York for college, studied psychology, worked here, lived with roommates, got into the retail kind of landscape, and since then it was just like an enjoyable job. I mean, funny enough, this is, I guess, part of my love for like retail is, I've listened to a lot of like blogs and regarding to like menswear and stuff like that. And something that a few people would mention is that like, retail used to be kind of like a profession, like you could actually take it seriously. You can
Mm-hmm.
kind of,
Mm-hmm.
be proud of yourself for almost being like a professional in your craft and kind of knowing something about the product that you're
Right.
showing to the people that are coming in, and
Right.
like, and you would be almost like an expert, and there was nothing wrong with that, on whatever it was. I mean, if you're a salesperson, whatever it is that you are selling, if you become just an expert in that, people look to you and they kind of give you some credit for knowing something that they don't, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of it's a good thing, and if people are interested in the topic, they ask you and you just happen to know everything about it, they're like, oh wow, cool, like, thanks for telling me. So
Right.
yeah, I've worked several different stores. I worked in like Louis Vuitton, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Bloomingdales. So different stuff. Women's shoes, handbags, menswear. Yeah.
So what has it been like? Because I mean, you've had the fortune to. I mean, you've worked at. I mean, first of all, it's been awesome that you've been able to be exposed to basically all the major New York City department stores, which is, I think, amazing experience as a salesperson to just experience different management and different environments like that. But also, you've been
Yes.
able to work at because you work in the new Nordstrom store right now, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So you worked at the Neiman store that just opened at Hudson Yards for a period of time as well, right?
Yes,
So what
I
was it
did.
like working? I mean, I've talked about this for a while, but we've never had new department stores in like my entire career in New York City until the last, year we had several open. What's it been like to
Right.
be exposed to that? Either, you don't have to be Neiman's or Nordstrom specific, but just to be in a new store in New York City.
It is it's a wild ride, I guess. Um it is it's a great learning experience because you really see almost like uh I mean it's like seeing a huge clock and you see it from the outside and you admire it and you know that
Mm-hmm.
it tells time and that's kind of its basic function, but it's like going inside and really seeing the things that make it work and then make it work correctly and kind of seeing how things need to be fine tuned here and there, like in order to adjust. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just it seems like opening a new store, for one, is complicated, I'm sure.
Right.
Opening a new store in New York, even more complicated. Opening a new store in New York that has never been in New York, like that is
Yeah.
probably the like a trifecta of just the most difficult things to kind of put together and learn from, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So,
And how was it just like adapting to that? Because also like as a new store, you have, I mean, from your career before where you were at stores that weren't brand new, when you go to a brand new
mm,
store, you've got the wave of people that are just coming to see it as a new store. And then it kind of like dies down a little bit and goes back to normal business. How is that transition for you?
um, I guess like to look at it in a positive light, I would say just to learn from every sort of experience that you
Yeah.
go through,
Yeah.
because all of that things are going to happen and a lot of them you just can't control, So, a new store opening, you're obviously going to have people that just want to see the store, especially if it's large, spectacular,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to want to come in just to see kind of what
Mm-hmm.
the excitement's about. Also, depending on, if the store is popular, say in another state and is now new in New York, you have your sort of tourist customers that are familiar with the store from where they're from. And then you have the New Yorkers which come to it, which are, like a total different breed of
Uh-huh. Right.
customers. So
Yeah.
you have that intermingling of like all different types of people. You have people from the Midwest to people from, the West Village coming in. And,
Right.
as a salesperson, you kind of have to alter your approach to people. And, like you see just how different customers can be and how different a selection you need in order to accommodate everybody. So,
Do you feel just going into that game day after day for these new stores of, I love how you said, like having to adapt to a local customer or a tourist or someone who's just coming by, but still give them like a super high level of service. Do you feel like just you've gotten better at, I guess, really quickly understanding who that person is and sort of what their needs are just because you're doing it over and over and over again, like reps?
yes and no. Yes, because you want to assume that, you want to say that, yeah, I'm getting better at kind of understanding people
Right.
based on very little information or just, the first 5 minutes. But then it's no, because then you don't want to be completely judgmental and
Yeah, it's
just
true.
totally think that you know somebody based off, 5 minutes. It's like,
Right.
I think that's kind of again where the not necessarily relationship building, but really trying to take the selling portion out of it and building on something where you're just two people standing in front of one another and having a conversation as to sort of break the ice, because it's like they know you're a salesperson and your bottom line is to try and sell them something. So
Right.
they may be on kind of the defensive
Right.
automatically.
Right.
They're, a consumer and they might be pushing back on the fact that, you're trying to sell something. So breaking the ice to just kind of be like, look, like this is what I do. You're obviously here. If there's something you need, like this, I'm the person that assists you. I'm the one that can help you get from point A
Mm-hmm.
to point B,
Mm-hmm.
and make this as easy and as seamless for you as possible. That's what I'm here for.
Wow.
And like they can kind of be like, okay, like
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Just putting it out
that's
there in the open, like no games,
right.
just putting it out there.
Right. Right. Like if you pretend you're not what you are, then they're obviously going to have some sort of a distrust from the beginning. If you're like, no,
Right.
I'm not a salesperson, it's like, well, no, like, hey, I'm the salesperson, you're the
Right.
customer. Like, if you don't want to buy anything, not a problem. But let's find out why you're here and kind
Yeah.
of, if we run into something that you like, you might buy it. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's the case. I mean, how many times do you walk into a store, you're like, I'm totally not buying anything. And then the
Mhm.
people are just really nice and the stuff you see is really nice. And you just happen to have, like your wallet on you. You're like, oh, okay. All right. I'll fine. You know what? Like
Right.
I totally didn't plan on it, but everything kind of aligned. And I was like, okay, why not? Like, sure.
Wow. I am in love with the way that you said that, because I think it's missed a lot in the sales process, because we're salespeople. So we get stuck to this idea of sales, but everything you're saying, it's like when you first meet a customer on the floor, you're almost not at the sales process yet. It's discovery. It's you
Right.
trying to figure out, you just said all of that. You're trying to figure out what their needs are. They obviously came to the store for a reason, whether just to escape from their life or they need a new bag. Like, you're trying to figure out what that is. And
Right.
I'm glad that you said no, that you're not like adapting, faster to like judging people faster, being understanding. Because like, I think you're right in the sense of, I mean, there's a psychological study. Don't quote me on this. I don't know what it is, that we judge people in the first 60 seconds, like the first impression. Everybody
Right.
by nature basically assumes that this is the type of person in the first 60 seconds. And it's almost impossible to get rid of that. But as
Right.
salespeople, I think what you're saying, correct if I'm misunderstanding, is that that will happen, but you almost need to like ignore it until you've dug deeper into who that person actually is over a longer period of time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously you can't ignore the things that you will just kind of come to your
Right.
mind. And yeah, but you have to, if you understand that that's just kind of the way that we are, it's like, look, I would love to say that I'm not going to judge people, but the reality is that I judge people and so does everybody else. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just, if you judge them based on better qualifications than just, like your
Right.
bare minimum things. If you judge them based on kind of you delve deeper into characteristics and then you have a better judgment. It's not that you're not going to judge them, it's that your
Right.
judgments become better and more kind of a qualified judgment of like, okay, so like you're based off of what you're telling me,
Right.
this is my judgment, not
Right.
like based off of my pure assumptions
Assumption.
of
Hmm.
your, yeah, of the way that you look or the way that you
Hmm.
dress or the way that you talk. Like tell me a little bit and then based on that, hopefully don't say something
Right.
completely incorrect,
Right.
based on my judgment. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's next for you? Like, what are you the most excited to get back to when you get back to the store, or where do you want to go this year? Like, what's on your agenda for this year?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, like I said, having so much like time, like free time off, it's kind of,
Hmm.
it makes you think if, not necessarily if you're not doing what you're really drawn to, but if there's other things that, that really just please you as well. Like I think for a lot of people, just being around their family a lot, they realize they don't like them as much, or like they or they really miss being around them,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
often,
Yeah.
where they're like, wow, I spend so much time at work, and you know what, like, or like doing things that maybe were just a hobby, and now you're kind of like, hey, this is kind of cool, or hey, you know what,
Hmm.
I'm actually getting good at this, or like,
Hmm.
maybe it's like cooking or gardening or doing something where you're like, hey, you know what, this is actually something that might be right up my alley, and I may have a knack for this, and maybe I can make something out of this.
Right.
Maybe I can like do this professionally, or kind of do it on the side,
Right.
or make some sort of a video, like something where I think maybe people are getting a little creative. And
Uh-huh.
so for me, it's just been, because of my love with menswear, I'm kind of just trying to delve more into it. I love to draw. So I'm taking a lot of inspiration from some people out there already. There's a few guys that they have. So there's one guy, I don't know if you're familiar. His name is Slow Boy.
I'm
It's like
not.
Slowboy. So I think
Okay.
he's like a maybe Korean illustrator.
Okay.
So what he does, he draws kind of like cartoonish sort of figures, but I think he's done a lot of collaborations with companies, say like Drake's, or
Oh,
like
nice.
some tailoring companies. So what he'll do is, I think he even does with a suit supply, honestly. So I guess what he does is to do maybe a new spin on kind of marketing.
Hmm.
So instead of maybe like these companies putting yet another picture in a magazine or online of a product, which is kind of, we just see products all day, every day,
Right.
he'll make sort of like caricatures or cartoons or something where it's still showing the product, but in a new sort of version where it catches the person's eye, and you're like, oh, that's funny, or that's quirky, or whatever. It's a flannel suit, but it's a cartoon flannel suit,
Right.
but Drake's actually sells the real flannel suit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you see kind of, there's like this just a different interaction within marketing and within just showing their product, where it's almost like, don't take it too seriously. For one, it's just clothes,
Uh-huh.
but also here's a new way to sort of like to present our stuff, so that it's like, it's fun, it's entertaining, and it's unique, and you kind of want to see like another interpretation. You're like, oh, can you do like, I don't know, like this denim that I saw, can you like draw something like, and so I guess things like that. But he's really cool. I check his stuff out a lot, and yeah, he's really popular now. So go
So
ahead.
what do you want to do with this? Because I can feel your passion. Like I feel it through the
Yeah.
screen.
um I don't know, like I've always kind of been more like, you just see where the road takes you. If you're
Mm-hmm.
passionate about something, you just kind
Mm-hmm.
of put your energy into it. But I've always been kind of poor about like setting up the goal and
Right.
directing, going directly for it. But I guess seeing what he is doing is just inspiring, because now I see companies that are looking for different ways to maybe present their products.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, like at the beginning, it was crazy new and people were totally into it. Now it seems like a lot of people are kind of like either bored of it, or it's just like
Mm-hmm.
very repetitive. It's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of just, if it's product that you're looking at, I mean, it's pages and pages of product after
Right.
product after
Right.
product, and you really have to find out a way to make your certain thing stand out, like totally catch somebody's 5 seconds of attention. And so I think companies will probably want to do things that are just different, like shake things up. Like there's only so much that you can do with photography to make it really stand out. So maybe just trying things like, what, like let's involve like urban art, or like
Yeah.
things of that sort, and maybe try and shake things up where it's not the typical presentation. So maybe for me just to get into something like that, to like, for in terms of art, a lot of people's art is very different from one another. No two artists will present an
Right.
image in the same way.
Right.
So you can have tons of people present your product in a new sort of vision. Like, oh, can you draw, look, we have this pattern, or we have this jacket, draw it for us,
Yeah.
make like
Yeah.
your idea, your version of it. So someone sees that and they're like, wow, that's a cool painting. Like, wait, that jacket actually exists. Oh, okay, let me look at the real thing, and
Right.
I guess stuff, stuff of that sort, just brainstorming. And
Dude, if I
yeah.
may be so bold, I could totally see you doing, I don't know exactly what it would look like, but I could totally see you helping brands with this though. I mean, like, I think there's probably like, even the conversation that we've been having, you've said so many things that I didn't even know existed. I'm like, you're so right that there's all this majority of how things are done, whether it's, menswear advertising or how menswear does Instagram. And you have these edge cases of how people took a creative idea that wasn't commonly used and just really made an impact. And I think most people don't know those things even exist. And you're just like connecting the dots for me. So I don't exactly know what that means, but I could totally see you, whether it's through content or through consulting for brands or something. I could totally see you doing that.
Thank you, I appreciate it, man. Like, like it's sometimes, the funny thing is that sometimes, say if you're aware of something, based on like maybe your specific interest, and you devote a lot of time into looking at certain things,
Mm-hmm.
you probably don't realize that maybe the majority of people that you talk to don't know anything to the extent that
It's true.
and you kind
It's
of take
true.
it for granted. You're like, oh
Yeah.
no, but this is probably just common knowledge, like so many people probably know this stuff. But maybe not. And sometimes you don't realize until speak to other people, and they're like, wow, I had no idea. And you're like, oh wow,
Right.
really? Oh, okay, I guess I'm just the only one. Or or maybe there's like a kind of geek group that's on the same page.
I think you're so right. I mean, if it's basic to you, that doesn't mean that it's basic to everybody. I mean, even like maybe
Right.
you learned it over a couple months period, you just learned it. There's probably people that are so far behind. I think you're right. I think most people don't connect the dots of like, even though I think it's relatively standard, I can help other people get to that point and add a lot of value to their lives, even though I think it's like pretty an easy concept, or I know about it, I guess.
Right. Right. So I guess, like, and it's great, like conversations like these where somebody may point it out like, oh, I had no idea. And you're like, oh,
Right.
okay, cool. Oh, thank you for, thank you for letting me know that.
But it takes that moment, right? Because like, you literally don't see it. It's like our own, there's probably a word for it, our own blindness around like maybe these types of things. It takes someone calling it out and be like, oh man, yeah, you're right.
Right. Right. And then really, like giving yourself credit at the end of the day. I think that's like a lot of people have trouble with that also, like, sometimes you're like, oh, well, it's just no big deal. It's no big deal. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
know this stuff. And,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes, like, I think with a lot of people, they need somebody else to push them to tell them, like, no, no, man,
Right.
like, you should totally, like, do this. You're like, no, no, I'm not. There's plenty of people that kind of know this stuff
Right.
as much as I do or as well as I do. So, I think maybe that has to do with the interconnectedness of like everybody now, that
Uh-huh.
or maybe you have a great idea, but you're like, it's probably already been done. There's probably
Right.
already somewhere somebody's
Right.
already thought of
Right.
this, like, I don't know.
No, and you
So
you stop yourself before you even start, before you even like
right,
get the first step. You just like talk yourself out of it, like, I can't do this before you've
right,
even taken the first step and seeing what happens.
right, right. But it's it's maybe it's kind of a personality thing,
Yeah.
like I've heard some people say that the type of personality of like the person that might be like have that creative side to think of the idea may not have the same type of personality as the sort of go-getter type of person that's like, I
Right.
want to make this idea like a fortune, or I want to
Right.
make this working. It's like
Right.
two different people. You have like the person that's like the finance guy that's like, oh my god, this is a genius idea, I know how to put it into works. And then
Yeah.
you have the other guy that's like, the creative guy that's like, I don't really know what to do with it, but I think I kind of have an idea.
Right.
And it's really a brilliant idea, but he just is not the go-getter type to
Right.
really, to make it happen. So sometimes there's always that sort of a, little dilemma kind of.
That's all we have. That's why you have friends and connections, right? You need these people in your life that do the like. You need to realize where you're not, and you wait. That's not the right way of saying it. You need to realize where you're missing, I
But yeah,
guess. Where you need that
yeah, yeah,
support network of like, okay, maybe you're the go-getter. You need the other side of things, or vice versa.
right, right. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's not necessarily like your faults, but it's like some people have, way better sort of skills in one area
Right.
where they're like, I'm the person, like, I wake up early and I get things done, and I'm the one that's like,
Right.
I make the connections. It's like,
Yeah.
you stand over there, don't talk. Let me talk to all the people. Let me make the connections. Let me
Right.
do, like the,
Right.
whatever. But you just be the person that comes up with the ideas or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
and I feel like sometimes businesses work that way, and they do really well because the certain people know what their strengths are,
Mm-hmm.
and they know what the other person's strengths are, and then
Right.
you kind of combine those different types of people, and then you do much better than just trying to do the whole thing yourself, especially if you're not good at certain
See, man, you're a connector. That's what you are. You're a connector.
things. It's just a lot of thinking, a lot
Yeah.
of thinking, and which is why I really wanted to take the opportunity to have the conversation, because I feel like stuff like this is always just
Right.
good, because again, like where certain people have strengths, that's
Mm-hmm.
how these things will kind of transmit
Right.
from one person to another, by conversation like this, where someone's like, what, I never thought of that, and the other person's like, yeah, well, I never thought of what you said. That's how, like, people complete a circle. It's
Right.
like two halves, and then they kind
Yeah.
of, they complement one another, and they're like,
Yeah.
wow, what, this is a great idea, we should totally work on this together. You're like, yeah, totally, okay,
Done.
like, let's give it a shot. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like, but it's sometimes if you try and do everything all by yourself, that's where it can either get like too difficult that you feel
Right.
like you're just taking on a huge task,
Right.
or so
All
so
right. Well,
yeah,
I can tell you've given me tons of value to go away from this conversation. My brain's already spinning on a bunch of things. So thank you for that.
yeah,
But part of the
totally,
reason I want
totally,
to do
man.
this is I want to, showcase, super talented people like yourself. So if people want to
Thank you, man.
get in touch with you, where can they find you, or is there a place they can reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, they can, like, I'm on social media, a few different pages. I got my work page, and I got like personal. My page is probably going to be more related to art coming up. So it's just like first name underscore double underscore last name Andres, Andras underscore Casanova.
Andres
On
double
Instagram.
underscore. 2
Yes.
underscores. Okay.
Casanova, Casanova
Okay.
on Instagram. Not really on Twitter. Try and stay off that. But so yeah, our email, same to andres.casanova at
Okay.
gmail.
All right.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, listen, I gotta run, but this was awesome.
Yes.
Andres, thank you for talking. Let's connect soon because I really enjoyed this. So I'd love to chat again.
Yeah, me too, man. It was great. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
So that was my conversation with Andras Casanova. If you're in New York City, make sure you stop into Nordstrom, New York, say hello, tell them how much you loved this episode, and we will catch you next time.